automatically classified as Category 2 research. So now, Joy will now start on the awards process.
Okay. So yes, I think that's incredibly important, that it's not just if you happen to be successful at the award, but for you people particularly in your promotion applications, if you're going for grant, if you're active in the grant space, it's important to show that activity in your roles. Okay, I'm going to talk about teaching awards now. Now, first of all, I wanted to address what I think is quite a common preconception, and that is, why should you bother really applying for a teaching award? Like, are they really just off to the side, a little bit irrelevant, kind of nice, maybe someone else gets them? And I don't think so. It was actually very interesting to me. I ran just a GCAP workshop last week and asked Mike Grace, who won a national citation, in to talk to the GCAP people who had taken this module. And he said, why should people bother apply? And he said, do it for yourself. He said, do it for tenure. And there's some people that I've spoken to who are still working towards tenure. Because you have to address the 5 criteria. That's right, you've heard this before. Those people were at the seminar for medicine, nursing and health science yesterday, so they know this. You actually have to address the 5 selection criteria that are the same as the teaching awards. So there's a double purpose going on. So it's really worthwhile going just for tenure. For promotion, obviously, as well, if you happen to win, it's going to be a Guernsey. It is going to contribute to it. In fact, he thought that it did contribute to his promotion, which came 6 months after he'd won the award. The other thing he mentioned, and I've heard other people, not everyone, but a number of people who've applied for awards say it's worth doing for yourself, just for yourself, because most people just do things, unless they're in the education faculty. They just teach, but they don't really devote a lot of time to thinking about why they do what they do, what the thinking is behind it, why they made that decision, what all the work was with collaborating with perhaps the staff across campuses. They don't give a lot of thought to the design of their course, but when they're forced to actually reflect and to put it together into some kind of coherent whole, it really is quite illuminating just for themselves. Some people say it also makes them aware of what they're not doing as well as what they are, but that's all actual part of the improvement cycle as well. So a lot of people say it's very, actually much more worthwhile, and even if they didn't win, they're glad they went for it, which makes me very happy because they do represent a bit of work, and it's really nice to hear firsthand that it's actually worthwhile from a personal point of view. As well as the fact that each of them comes with a certain amount of money, which we'll go into now. So with the national awards, there are 3 categories. The first are citations. There are 5 selection criteria, which are the same as for teaching excellence, but with citations you only have to address 1 of the selection criteria, or at the most 2. You only have to write 4 pages, so they're not as much work and it makes them a bit more achievable. Last year and the previous years they gave out 210 nationally. This time they've dropped it. They're only giving out 160. Each of them comes with a $10,000 reward. The 160, I remember the success rate was round about 2/3. 2/3 of people who apply for a citation, and each university was allowed to put forward 10. Of those, the success rate was about 2/3. This year, each institution is only allowed to put forward 8. We'll have to wait and see what the success...
Is that Monash, all of Monash?
Yes. Yes, all of Monash. Monash is only allowed to put forward 8. Usually, therefore, a lot of people put their applications in, the panel looks at them, picks the best 8 and puts those forward. I really want to stress that it really is no reflection that those other people who don't get it have not made the grade. They weren't the best application, But we actually see, and the panel sees the quality of these applications, and they are very strong, and there's a lot of conversation around what wonderful teaching is actually going on in these buildings, in this place. So it's always worthwhile having a go, but I also think it's worthwhile to try and tread lightly with it as well, because I bet what's motivating you, because you've become education focused on what motivates a lot of people, is actually nothing to do with the recognition. It's because you care about the students, and nothing changes that. That is, in fact, the most important contribution, and I think it's worth just keeping your eye on the ball. The second category is program awards, which are different. They are often given to teams. Sometimes the teams are collaborations between academic staff and professional staff. It might be business and economics working with learning skills people from the library, for example. It could be a whole second year program, as is going on with medicine, where all of the students go out into community-based back to practice programs, and I think they have gone and collaborated with 400 community organisations, so that the students go out and work on a health promotion project within that. It's kind of mammoth. So they often go across year levels or cut across units. The Prato Law, International Law Program was another one that won. The Foundation Program down in Gippsland won a Vice-Chancellor's Award. In South Africa, again, they've got an alternative pathways into the university program. That won a national award. There was about 30 people, academics in South Africa, who won that. So they're a little bit different, and they have completely different criteria, but they do come with 25,000, which is a bit handy when people who are involved in something actually want to do a project. You can actually achieve something with that amount of money. For this year, the closing date is the 20th of July. If you're listening and you know about something, we struggle to get people to apply for this, sometimes because they don't know they exist, so we'd really be happy to talk to you. Lastly are the awards for teaching excellence, which are the five selection criteria. They're a bit more weighty, they're 8 pages. They only give this year up to 16, so it's very competitive. They come with a $25,000 reward, and there's a presentation in Sydney or Canberra, and the closing date, once again, is the middle of the year. Increasingly with those awards, as they become more competitive, they are given to people who have made an impact beyond their institution at the national and also the international level. So you probably need to have had an impact either in learning, teaching, research, or in some kind of representation on an international disciplinary body in order to be competitive. It's very competitive.
Joy, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
The five criteria, are they the same criteria as the ALTC used? And so those are also our educational performance standards,
Yes.
the qualitative education performance
They,
standards.
exactly. So in the centre, thank you for reminding me, in the middle part of which is the main, for education focused people, this is the core part of your promotion application. You've got the quantitative things that you have to put in the unit evaluations, but then you've got the qualitative part to address. They are exactly the same selection criteria as for the Citation and Teaching Excellence Awards. So we strongly encourage you, if you've gone for promotion, have a think about putting together an application, because you can actually just repurpose some of that work for an award. Vice versa, if you've actually this year or another year gone for an award, have a look over it, because you can use some of that material and apply for a promotion. I think I was going around that way. So we've done this on purpose. The whole university has thought about this. They actually don't want to put the onus on you to do a whole lot of extra work. That is really not the point. We know that people are very busy, and the more you can repurpose the same kind of material and build on it, and the more you can get used to the kind of criteria, the more effective you're going to be, the more time you're going to have for the real work of teaching. Also, when you've got to evidence those qualitative criteria, you go to the academic performance standards of education that Sarah talked about, and I also think we've got a really good website with resources which have got two sections. One of them is on collecting evidence, and it doesn't duplicate the performance standards, but it gives you some other forms of evidence that just might have completely passed you by. I mean, recently people are including how many discussion posts that they are having each week on tutorials. When you're trying to prove engagement of students, and you can say that, you know, there's only 80 students and you're getting something like 370 posts each semester, that really shows that there is a lot of discussion going on. So it's got peer review, might be worth getting a peer review. There's heaps on your website, maybe you've made a terrific website. There's a whole lot of ideas of things that you may have done that you just might not tweak could be used as evidence of your activity and how effective it is. From the Teaching Excellence Award winners, the national ones, is chosen the Prime Minister's award. So you're in the running automatically if you are a nominee for the Teaching Excellence Awards. They come with $50,000, and we've had 2 people at Monash. Three?
Marty's gone.
Yes, Stephen Barkosi, and in taxation law, business and law, Angela Carboni in 2009 in IT, and Marnie Hughes-Warrington, who won it when she was at Macquarie. So we've had some success. These are the criteria. I don't think I'm going to go through these too much now, but there is on our website, which is also worth knowing. So then if you're going to promotion, have a look at our website too. I've actually written down what you could discuss under each criteria, because some people are not quite sure which would go where. Like if you've written a textbook, does that go under scholarship or does it go under development of resources? Sometimes you could do both. I've written prompt questions and ideas to help you sort out what you would talk about. And again, it might trigger things that you've actually done that you just forgotten about. And you'll remember, oh yes, I have got that, so I could talk about that under there. So if you're going for promotion, it's really worthwhile having a look at the awards resources website for these criteria. And we are more than happy to talk to you too, one-to-one, if you're still wanting some guidance. The other element that's incredibly important, both with promotion and with awards, is that is providing quality. They're not given to people who assert that they're good teachers. You have to have demonstrated the impact, the effectiveness, the benefits that the students have got as a result of you teaching. So that's quite hard sometimes. And when you're talking qualitative characteristics, it is hard, and you really have to think carefully about it. That's why our evidence sections are important. And we can talk to you about that as well. The web link for the awards resources, on which we've got those 2 sections, collecting evidence and using evidence, and how to address the criteria, are at that web link. And I suppose we're going to make this available afterwards, so
Yeah.
we'll save you having to fossick around the Office of Pro Vice Chancellor and your teaching's website. Our Monash Vice Chancellor's Awards mirror the national awards completely, and that once again is so that you can actually step from faculty to Vice Chancellors to national without having to rethink and do a whole lot of extra work. They've got the same kinds of categories, teaching excellence, citations and programs. The criteria are aligned. This year the faculty this year we want faculty to tell us who they're going to nominate, because there's a limit to how many each faculty can nominate, by the 13th of August, and then applications are finally towards the end of the year in September. What do? We offer support. It is end-to-end support. Face-to-face meetings initially. I really encourage you to talk to us early. I think we could probably save you hours of time. People sometimes put together an application and then we have a look at it, but I reckon if we can talk to you first, you actually produce a better first draft than you would without talking to us, so you might as well do it and save yourself time. There are very effective resources, as I've said. We'll make that a more obvious colour when we do this, when we put this up on it so that you can see what it is. We also have now a really good bank of past models of successful applications. I hesitate to use the word models because that tends to sound a little bit like templates, and that would be to mislead you. They are not templates. One of the things I think, if you have a look at a number of them, is that they're really, really different to each other. And in fact, the national assessors report back each year that when an institution puts forward a group of applications and they all tend to look the same and sound the same, it actually disadvantages them and they don't do as well. You really do want to try to dig deep in these applications, to really think about what your teaching philosophy is. What you do hope that at the end of the 4 years or 3 years, students walk away with as a result of their contact with you, and to try to convey that in your application. In a bit of it has to be, you want them to be personal at some kind of level. And in that sense, they're quite different from other kinds of academic writing and take a little bit of practice. So the models do help. You can see the variety of features. They've also often solved problems. Some of you are not sure, well, how on earth do I describe my teaching in 4 pages? Like, how do I reduce that? And it just gives you an idea of how other people have solved those problems, of how to story what you do. We help with how to pitch it and how to maybe put a story onto what you do. We give one-on-one feedback on drafts. Often lots of questions, things we don't understand. We'll say, I don't really follow this. We don't. It's likely that another assessor won't follow it either. And then we now have a very well-established mentor scheme. So past winners are paired with a prospective applicant. We've got a mentor in the room who mentored really well, because his mentee won both a citation and a teaching excellence last year. That's Kevin in the back row. So we've got a really well-established mentor scheme, and this year our aim is for 90% of national applicants to be paired with a new applicant, so that you get more than our perspective. Like, we can go so far, but it's nice to be paired with someone else who's been through the process.
Joy, it's not just the process. People I've been involved with are out of different disciplines, and you come with your own discipline, which is mine is finance, into something like paramedics, and so you come with an entirely different perspective on how they look at it.
Yes, and the assessors aren't necessarily from your discipline. So in a way, they're like a good test gauge. You've got to speak to a broader audience who doesn't share your assumptions and knowledge of your discipline. And that's quite hard. It is hard. And they you know, if they can kind of, if they don't follow it, then it's likely that you need to make something clearer. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, fellowships. These are similar to grants, but there are 2 kinds of fellowships. There's 5 national teaching fellowships with significant funding of up to $250,000. So that's actually higher than the innovation and development full grants. And then mid-career fellowships, again up to 5, with funding of $60,000. These are learning and teaching projects. In that sense, they're very similar to grants. There are no categories, so there's no priorities. You would need to justify why you're doing it. It will probably have to do with your own learning and teaching career trajectory, like what is it that you're focused on. Like Angela Broom's one, David Bood, I think, is into assessment. So it'll be following up on what is your kind of baby, what is your area. There's only one round of those. It's always the start of the year. We've missed that, but think about it. Those of you who are active in the grant space, at some stage you need to think about applying for a fellowship. Now the next slide, I just wanted to discuss this because, and it looks a bit obscure, but I thought about what's going on at Monash in a formal and an informal sense. So we've got opportunities. We've got formal opportunities and informal opportunities. Down here are all the kind of things that you might just be doing because you thought it was a good idea. Team teaching, for example, or you might be working in partnership with other universities or with professional associations or with community bodies. And you might not have thought how this actually fits all together in terms of your career. You might have done the GCAT, for example. And so far, you might have all thought of these things as being in isolation. But what I'd like to do is, I think, particularly for you people who have chosen this as an area to emphasise and to really build in a career on, is to think about how one thing can lead to another and how all of the activities that you do and all of the collaborations that you have made actually can work together and build on each other. And so I've drawn a number of arrows, but in fact you could be, for you, each person, each one of you, we could go through this in terms of you, a personal profile, and we would draw different arrows depending on what we're doing. So for example, say if you, I'm just going to take some examples. Say if you had been a member of MEN, right, for a while, which means you've probably been interested in research. At some stage, you might want to soon think about an OLT fellowship. You might, as I've been saying, you might have been going for a grant, or you might have actually had perhaps a seed grant and then an innovation and development grant, maybe even an extension grant at the end of that. You might want to build on that again by going through a fellowship. You might have in your faculty a community practice, a collection, an informal collection of people who get together who are interested in some aspect. Maybe they're working on simulation or something like that. And you might have just been going on and doing that, but you haven't actually necessarily thought, how can I build on this in a formal sense to build my career? So it could be that you use that as a basis. You would like to pursue some aspect that you've, as a group or as an individual, been interested in. You might then go for a grant that's related to it. You might get involved, if you won a grant, in grant mentoring someone else. So once you've actually won one, help other people to actually pitch their grants. We're actually building a grant mentor scheme, and we're wanting people who've been successful in this grant space to mentor others. And by so doing, you also benefit, I think, from learning about what other people are doing and seeing what their issues are. Most mentor schemes, I know, the mentor gains as much as the mentee from the process. You might get involved in peer evaluation of teaching. At the moment, we've got a bank of people in each faculty who may have won awards. People who want to perhaps go for promotion and want to have an independent peer review of their teaching, they might call on you to come in and observe their teaching and comment on it because they want feedback on their teaching and how to improve. You might decide that you will do that and you haven't even known of its existence. But because you're building a career in this learning and teaching space, it's worthwhile having a look across this, I think. And there will be things that you will do that I haven't even thought of putting on this list, but you're doing it. But it is relevant to building a career in learning and teaching. And that's just lastly, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your attention. And if you would like to talk to us further about any of these matters at all, we're all here and very happy to talk to you.
And our email address is just pe@monash.edu. We all access that email address, so that's the only one you need to remember, pe@monash.edu.
We don't need to remember our names.
No.
We all keep close tabs on that email address, so send it and someone will contact you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.